Welcome everyone. My name is Angelina and I'm going to lead you through a short 20-minute practice today focused on yoga for anxiety. Anxiety is something that I have dealt with most of my life. Ever since I was a little kid, I remember having a lot of anxious thoughts and anxious feelings. So I'm going to share a couple of tools that have helped me and hopefully they can help you too. We're going to start by sitting up nice and tall. I'm sitting on the edge of a blanket. So if you have a blanket at home or a towel, you can use that to prop yourself up, gently tilting the pelvis forward, spine nice and long, shoulders down and relaxed. Hands can maybe come to the knees or the thighs. And we'll just begin by observing our breath. Maybe even silently repeating the words in on our inhale and out on our exhale. This helps us bring us into the body, really connecting to this moment where we are. In, out, in, out. We're really inviting ourselves right now to be fully present. And then we'll begin to control the breath, coming into that yogic breathing, Ujjayi breath, done by inhaling in through the nose, exhaling out of the nose. So it's just a subtle shift from our natural breath with more intention, more control. Inhale in, exhale out. Continuing to invite ourselves to be fully present. And that's the first part of the mantra we'll be using today. So one of my favorite mantras is this one I'm going to share with you by Pema Chodron from her book, Living Beautifully with Uncertainty and Change. And the mantra is, be fully present. Feel your heart and engage in the next moment without an agenda. And this mantra has helped me so much through anxious moments, anxious feelings, before getting to that full-blown anxiety attack. So we'll first start with being fully present. We're taking a few more breaths here in stillness, just establishing this presence before we start to get into the heart. And another mantra that really helps me establishing being present is, I am here. I am here. And then we're going to move into some gentle movements, still staying fully present, still staying connected to that breath. On our inhale, we'll start to lift the heart up towards the front of the mat, maybe gently let the head fall back. And on our exhale, we're going to round the spine and drop the chin to the chest. Our inhale lifts the heart up, head gently falls back. Exhale, we'll round the spine. So coming into these seated cat-cows, now beginning to expand through the heart space, moving into the second part of our mantra, feel your heart. So maybe as you take this movement, you start to check in. How is the heart today? And maybe today you're feeling pretty happy and calm. Maybe today you are feeling anxious. And just notice that. Don't make a story out of it. Don't judge it. It's not right or wrong. It's just what it is. And sometimes with anxiety, I know for me, I've tried to run from it. I've tried to not feel it, or maybe try to, think positively or come back to gratitude. And while those can be really good skills and resources to use, Sometimes with anxiety, it can be counterproductive. I found for myself, I just need to let myself feel it. I just need to be in it sometimes, and then it passes quicker. So we'll take a few more rounds, lifting the heart and rounding the spine. Wherever you're at, taking one more. And after you round the spine your last time, we'll come back to that tall seated pose. And then if you need to, maybe find a little bit of movement. Maybe now the neck and shoulders are a little bit more open. And again, just feeling where you are today. How is the heart? How is the body? And so after you've opened up the upper body a little bit, we'll use our hands to assist us up to standing. So take your time to get there. And then we're going to come to standing on our mat. We're going to keep the knees nice and soft. So maybe a bend in the knees, and we'll activate the belly to help us. And we'll just let the arms be nice and loose. So maybe shake out the arms, shake out the legs. And then we're going to start this really slow motion back and forth, really slow. And then maybe you pick up speed along the way. Maybe you close the eyes and really feel your way into this. I don't really know if there's a name for this pose. Maybe somebody can help me with that, but I just call it the washing machine. My friend Jasmine taught me that. And just going nice and soft on the knees, but getting as much momentum as you need in the arms. And I encourage you, I invite you to make this your own, to maybe get the shoulders into it, maybe loosen up the head and neck. Just feel your way into what you need here. And again, that invitation to truly feel your feelings, not running from them, but just being in them. But this movement, I think, helps as a resource through those anxious feelings or those uncomfortable feelings. The feet are firmly planted on the ground. You are safe here, but you are inviting yourself to work through whatever feelings you have. So sometimes those feelings get stuck in the body. And what we need to do with them is shake them out, really help to transmute that anxiety, that negativity. Times when we're just in it and it feels so uncomfortable and undesirable, we need movement. Meditating has helped me a great deal with my anxiety, but sometimes when I'm really, really in it, it's so difficult to sit still. So getting up and doing gentle movement like this, maybe creating a meditation out of this washing machine motion. So we'll take just a few more rounds, continuing to move around as you need to. Continuing to stay present with that breath and just feeling whatever it is you're feeling. And I'm going to invite you now to take a big inhale in through the nose. Open the mouth, let it go. Let's do that again. Big inhale in. Open the mouth, release. I also really like this when I'm pretty upset and I don't even know how to talk out what I'm feeling yet or journal out how I'm feeling. If someone were to ask me what was wrong in that moment, I wouldn't know what to say. But then I find as I introduce some movement into my body, it helps me to work through those feelings and then be able to be more vocal or more logical about what I'm feeling and why. Just take a few more rounds. You're always welcome to come to those big inhales in and big sighs out. Those are great for resetting the central nervous system and bringing yourself back to homeostasis. Okay, we'll start to slow that washing machine cycle down very slowly, and then just notice how that feels in the body. So maybe you're feeling the blood start to rush towards the extremities. Maybe you can feel just gently tingling in the body, and just notice. And we're going to move into the next part of our mantra now. which is engage in the next moment without an agenda. So we're going to come to a balancing pose. We're going to stack our knees and our ankles and our hip bones all in one line. We'll engage the core and we'll start to relax the shoulders down. Let's bring the hands to the hips. So we're going to come to tree pose, and there's a couple of variations and options with tree pose, but we're going to move into this without an agenda. We're going to just feel our way into the pose with connected breath, with presence, but without needing to get to a certain end point. So we're going to ground into the right foot, and we're going to start to lift the left toes up and bring the left foot to the inside of the ankle. So this is our first version of tree pose. We're all welcome to stay here. I'll show you a couple of other versions, but don't be too attached to them. Can we move into the pose with intention and without an agenda? So take a few more breaths, inhaling in, exhaling out. And maybe we stay right here, or maybe we move that foot a little bit higher. The foot could come anywhere below or above the knee, as long as we're not putting pressure on the knee. Keep a gentle bend in that standing leg. And again, if you are with your foot low, you're still doing the pose. Moving into it without an agenda. Okay, we could play around with some hand variations. Hands can stay on the hips, or maybe hands come to the heart. Maybe hands lift up to the sky. And don't move into any version where you can't breathe. If you're holding your breath, come to a different version. And then if you'd really like to challenge yourself today, maybe you look up at the ceiling, or maybe even you close the eyes. Inhale in, exhale out, continuing that commitment to stay fully present. On our next exhale, we'll gently bring the hands down if they were up, bringing them back to the hips. Inhale in, exhale, release the foot, and then you can find a little bit of a shake in the legs if needed before we move into the other side. So we'll reground the feet, ankles, knees, and hips in one line, activating the core, hands to the hips to help us get into the first part of the pose. And there's always one side that's harder than the other. I think this is the harder side for me. So I may stick with the lower version of the pose, still doing the pose, but without an agenda. Grounding into the left toe, starting to lift the right foot to the inside of the ankle. Inhale in, exhale out, gentle bend in the standing leg, activating the core. And maybe we stay here. Maybe we move the foot up anywhere above or below the knee, not on the knee, relaxing the shoulders. Inhale in, exhale out. Give yourself permission to keep your hands at the hips if you need to today. If you need a more challenging version of the pose, hands can come to the heart, or hands can lift overhead. And there's still those options to look up at the ceiling or to close the eyes. Inhale in, exhale out, as long as you're doing it with connection and without an agenda. So on the next exhale, hands return to the hips. A big inhale in, exhale, release the foot, and then just do any shaking out that you need to. Shoulders or neck can move around. And then we're going to come back now to the mat. We're actually going to lay down on the mat, coming to the back. And we'll start to bring the knees in towards the chest. Take a few very gentle rocks side to side. Still inhaling in and exhaling out. And then on our next exhale, let's drop our knees over towards the right side. And maybe you let that left shoulder press into the mat. Just getting this release in the low back and the hips. And again, keeping that commitment to stay fully present. fill your heart, and engage in the next moment without an agenda. And it's not always comfortable to just sit with anxiety, to just be there in it. But from my experience, trying to ignore it or trying to run from it or trying to, positively think it away, thinking about the positives, being grateful. Again, all good resources, but not always something that works for feeling anxiety. I've found that sometimes I just need to feel it. I just need to be in it. I just need to be present with what it is I'm fearful about. And a lot of my anxiety comes from worrying about the future, what could happen, what could be, the what ifs. So now I really try to catch myself when I go down that what if hole. Well, what if this? Well, what if that? Well, what if? And I try to use my breath to bring myself back to present, because we can what if anything to death, and it's not necessarily going to help the situation. Are we still staying connected to the breath, still keeping that commitment to being fully present? Our next inhale will bring the knees back to center, few rocks side to side, very gently. And then on the next exhale, we'll drop the knees over towards the left side of the mat. The right shoulder grounds down. Inhale in and exhale out. I think I used to come from the standpoint that I needed to worry about things in order to show that I cared about them. And there's a really fine line between being concerned and caring for something or someone, and then crossing that line over into worry. Because worry is not healthy for us. And worry certainly doesn't change the outcome of any situation. If my worry had ever been productive, if I could worry people into safety, if I could worry situations into being positive, then everything would be perfect in this world. I've had enough worry, I think, that if it were to work, the world would be at peace. But worry doesn't work that way. It only takes away from our peace. And it's a real fine line, so I've had to work hard to figure out what that line was for me. Having care, having concern, but not crossing that line into worry. On our next inhale, we'll bring the knees back in, few rocks side to side. And then we'll start to bring the knees in a little bit deeper, tight squeeze, maybe even bringing the forehead up towards the knees, boulder pose. And let's take one more big inhale in together. Open the mouth and let it go. Let's start to relax down to our final resting pose. I invite you to get as comfortable as you can. Maybe bring the blanket under the knees, under the feet, under the head. You could bend the knees if that makes more sense for your low back. We'll just take a few last moments here together in our final resting pose. If you have the time, I invite you to stay here longer, as long as you need. If you need to come up, gently bend the right knee and bend the left knee. Roll over towards the right side. Use your hands to very gently assist yourself up. And maybe just still lying flat, or maybe joining me in sitting. We'll bow the head, close the eyes. Thank you so much for taking time and space for yourself today, to just sit with your feelings, being fully present, feeling your heart, and engaging in the next moment without an agenda. Namaste.